Technology can be a wonderful, glorious thing. It can also be totally and utterly misused, especially when in the hands of buffoons. Adobe Photoshop is a prime example of a tool that can make photos and images look spectacular, yet also create the most bizarre and, let's face it, funny moments if used incorrectly. We've compiled some of the worst examples of photoshopping found on the internet, from the downright hilarious to the slightly disturbing manipulation of the human body. There are awful images of celebrities and instances where companies have inexplicably changed reality for nefarious means. Take a look through the extensive collection and revel in the idiocy of photoshoppers who, quite frankly, had no idea what they were doing. There is no better modern cock-up than a Photoshop cock-up. Photoshop disasters. A matter of perspective. This is a really special photoshopping where perspective has either been terribly skewed or there's something horribly wrong with the world. Columbia Pictures absolutely legless. Be the looks of things, this shark has already made off with this lady's legs. She doesn't seem to phased though, which is impressive. The only Jamie ghostly dog owners. These two dog owners appear to have floated up the stairs carrying their dog. Some spooky editing right there. BuzzFeed legs that go on and on and on. We've heard that supermodels have to have long legs, but this is just silly. It's hard enough for young ladies trying to live up to unrealistic body image standards. How are they meant to get legs like this? BuzzFeed saving money on expensive photo shoots. Why do we need to get two separate shots? Let's just slap an eye mask over the first. Job done. This photoshopping disaster is a clear case of cutting corners to save money. Myself, something's missing. We've heard of people wanting a flatter stomach, but this is really rather ridiculous. This woman has lost her entire belly button thanks to the work of the photoshopper. Imagery by Lisa Hall. Family portraits gone awry. If you've paid a professional photographer to take some snaps of your family, you'd expect some pretty smashing results. This family got more than what they bargained for. The images went viral quite quickly and the family actually managed to find humor in the whole thing too. Flexible joints. Now, if we just dislocate your thumb, it'll make for a better picture. It might be plausible that this lady is double-jointed or incredibly flexible, but we feel like there's more to it. Photoshop disasters. Manipulating the truth. Sometimes, Photoshop is used for more nefarious endeavors, like manipulating the truth of a situation. They say you shouldn't believe everything you read. You also shouldn't believe everything you see. BuzzFeed getting into the Christmas spirit. Who forgot the Santa hats? No worries, we can just Photoshop them on afterwards. Why bother splashing out on props when you can just edit the photos afterwards? Victoria's Secret lumps and bumps. There are all sorts going on with this Victoria's Secret model's torso that we don't know where to start. BuzzFeed lobster claws. You're meant to cook the lobster, not turn into one. This photoshopping has done something terrifying to this poor woman's mitts. BuzzFeed. That's stretching things. Another case of unnecessary long legs. Ridiculously long shins and high heels that would make your ankles scream in agony. We can only hope it's a Photoshop error rather than horrible deformity. BuzzFeed claw hand. There's nothing IER than having a claw. We're not really sure how this happened or what was going through the designer's mind. Perhaps they hoped your eye would be distracted by other things. BuzzFeed giraffe neck. It's not just legs that get the elongation treatment. Necks too are apparently open to extending. Well, at least she can eat leaves off tall branches now. BuzzFeed a little monster warning. These nappies will turn your child into a monster. We know children can be little terrors at times. This one is especially scary. BuzzFeed reflection-free mirrors. Just as we always suspected, Kim and Kanye are actually vampires. Now we finally have the proof. Or maybe these are just newfangled mirrors that don't actually show people's reflection. BuzzFeed legs 11 way. Wonder if this is as uncomfortable as it looks. We can't even tell which leg is meant to be there in the first place. BuzzFeed wigging out. If you want to sell a wig, make sure attention is drawn to the wig, not the wonky skin and hand. Weburbanists X sells. We all know that sells. Maybe this designer just figured adding some cleavage and extra makeup to this model would be enough to help sell some guitars. Web urbanist fake money. You can forgive the incorrect spelling of 100 when you've invented a check that doesn't cast a shadow. We love the reflection in the car, too. Imagine the original photo shoot. Just stand with your arms wide and we'll Photoshop the check in later. Web urbanist. The TARDIS tent. This tent must be special. This photoshopping makes it look like it's made up of multiple levels, or maybe it's just been set up over a hole. Who can tell? Web urbanist. Vampire child. Another poor child turned into a terrifying, demonic-like beast. We've seen some pretty hideous kid photos over the years, but this one really bites. Web urbanist. A helping hand. When you notice the mystery hand, you can almost forgive this one for being fairly impressive. The owner of the disembodied hand is otherwise nowhere to be seen. Web urbanist. Drastic weight loss. We've heard about some pretty crazy dieting fads over the last few years, but this one really takes the cake, or leg. We have to admit a missing limb would make you a lot lighter. Fairly drastic measure though. Web urbanist. Off in the wrong direction. If you take a close look you can see this chap's handlebars are facing entirely the wrong way. Cycling without any hands is a dangerous enough affair, but this is bound to end badly. In the next frame, he's seen flying off into the ocean. Web urbanist. Mostly armless. This is either a before and after shot of a woman who has recovered from a horrific accident or a mighty Photoshop calamity. A close look shows a leftover shadow where her hands used to be, presumably caused by the designer trying to make room for the product. Web urbanist. The physics-defying bouncy castle. Not only will this bouncy play center keeps your kids amused, but it'll also help them levitate. Web urbanist. Next season's fashion. The latest handbag fashion is to just carry around a handle, don't you know? We can understand what was happening here at least. The designers didn't want to distract from the main focus of the photo, the dress. They photoshopped out the handbag to keep things nice and simple. Surely a simple cropping would have been easier. Web urbanist. Half a BBQ. We wonder if having half a barbecue and grill means the burgers are only half the calories. Web urbanist. Something in the water. This was in the American magazine Maxim. And they ask people to pay for it. Really? We have so many questions about this photo, it's probably better to just not to know what's going on. Ignorance is bliss after all. Web urbanist. Wave your hands in the air. You'd think editing a silhouette would be easier than some of the other photos on this list, but still it's an awful mess. Clearly, not only does the winner of American Idol get a recording contract but has their left hand repeatedly slammed in a door. Web urbanist. Attention to detail is everything. Even the big companies can get it wrong. A Microsoft US website posted a cheerful picture of American business types for an IT campaign. However, when the company's Polish arm ran it, they clumsily replaced the head but not the hand of the black colleague. Ouch for many reasons. Honky 2 buttons. This poor woman. As if it's not bad enough having fingers growing out of her thighs, she's also apparently the proud owner of 2 belly buttons. Honky 12, that's handy. Nice crop job, designer. Just forgot the other person's hand now, didn't you? In fairness, it would probably be fairly tricky to edit the extra fingers out, but we do feel like it's more likely an oversight. Honky a foot in the past. Who wasn't supposed to be in this photo? Their legs made it. If we didn't know this one was the result of some shoddy photoshopping, we might be adding it to our list of the best ghost photos throughout history. Honky at headspace. This poor designer had to work out how to squeeze a great swath of copy into a small space. We imagine they just got frustrated, gave up and just stretched the model's head to make more room. Honky a colorful mistake. We're not sure why, but this model's briefs look like they've been splodged on in Microsoft Paint. This is certainly not one of the most professional pieces of work we've seen. Honky at not how to sell a t-shirt. Just plonk the branding on there, nobody will notice. We've seen some fairly slopping photo editing efforts in this list so far, but this one is just terrible. Honky at crowd inception. We wonder what was going on in this photo that it needed this sort of editing. These lads and ladies have been added in several times, perhaps in an effort to make the crowd appear larger than it actually was. Honky at something left behind. This editing looks like one of those panoramic photos gone wrong. Some unfortunate editing has turned what was presumably meant to be something romantic into something pretty hideous. Honky at love is holding hand. 7 presidents aren't safe from photoshopping madness. This image of Barack Obama and his wife Michelle appears to show them holding hands while leaving Air Force One, but then she also has a spare hand too. Honky at missing wheels. This Turkish Airlines plane appears to be defying gravity by not having a load-bearing front wheel. We're not sure why it was removed, but we also wouldn't feel safe boarding for takeoff either. Honky at a leg over legless, in the non-traditional sense of the word. Veronica K., a professional surfer, is shown on the cover of Stuff magazine while apparently riding a board and missing one of her legs. Honk at the 3-footed man. How many legs does it take to wash a foot? This photoshopping error looks like it's a trick of the light or a matter of perspective. Honk at shadowy problems. This one takes a moment to spot, but if you look closely you'll see the shadow isn't quite right. Sometimes it's the little things that cause the biggest problems. Honky tall fingers and thumbs. This guy is so happy with his secret flight deals he grew an extra hand. And, rather remarkably, was giving a double thumbs up while also being asleep. Impressive. Honky at don't let us keep you in suspense. There's a wardrobe malfunction going on in this photo, but the good doctor doesn't seem to fazed by it. Perhaps he has some sort of Time Lord-friendly trousers and the suspenders are just for show. Honky at spare a thought for Beyonce. It seems that even the rich and famous aren't safe from the disasters of Photoshop editing gone awry. Here Beyonce can be seen with 3 arms, one of which appears to be growing out of her back. Honk at the illusion of speed. We're not sure if this image is meant to give the impression that the car is moving, or perhaps the car has those spinning alloy wheels that carry on moving while you're stationary. Honky at reflect on this. This SD card is having a bit of an identity crisis and can't work out what size it is. 8 GB on the card but not in the reflection. Honky at rather hypocritical. This one really takes the biscuit. While drawing attention to Photoshop fails on the right, this image sits on the left. Oh dear. Honky at these behind me, isn't he? The cast of 1984's comedy, This Is Spinal Tap, appears in this Photoshop fail where an extra cast member has apparently been cut out of the image, but still wants to give a helping hand. Honky at ad still loading. It's like something out of the days of dial-up internet when you had to wait for the image to load. This weird family photo appears to only feature a fraction of dead. Honky at allergic reaction. It's not clear what's happening here, but it certainly looks painful. This lady probably needs to pop and see an emergency healthcare professional as soon as possible. Honky at a hand for Highlander. Highlander is fairly renowned for his skills with a blade, but apparently holding his sword without actually wrapping his fingers around it is another hidden talent. Honky at flat stomach syndrome. Problems with missing belly buttons seem pretty rife on this list. We're seeing a painful amount of them. Unrealistic body image also abound. Honky at this looks uncomfortable. We're aware that young people are agile and more flexible than us older folk, but this is just daft. What is he leaning on? Where's his hip gone? More questions than answers. Honky at inexplicable angle. As not only has this person managed to squeeze their body into a figure-hugging outfit, but they're also bending at inexplicable angles. Staring at this one for too long will hurt your eyes and your head. Honk at the leg bones connected to these legs go on and then stop short. Fairly impressive she can stand up like this. Honky at stick legs. You've heard of stick thin legs and legs as big as tree trunks, but what about weird contorted toothpicks? We're not sure these legs would support anyone's body weight. Honky at flexible fingers. We've already seen plenty of fails in this list with people holding hands, but what's going on with these fingers? Weirdly flexible to the point of being frightening. Honky at never work with children or animals. The old saying goes, never work with children or animals. Perhaps it should be never work on children or animals. This young lady has lost almost half her body during the editing process. Honky at not a swimming. 2 hands plus 1 arm equals baffled. Obviously, swimming nappies aren't going to help with buoyancy, so someone needs to be there to hold on to the nipper. That parent apparently has incredibly flexible arms. Honky at a hand for Phelps. Michael Phelps, the most decorated Olympian of all time, was once questioned over whether he used performance-enhancing drugs to win his 28 Olympic medals. No one ever asked if he had an extra hand in winning. Does this photo reveal a new truth to his swimming prowess? Or is it just another in a long line of Photoshop gaffes? Honky got a fresh new hairstyle. There's no denying that hair editing is hard. This designer appears to have given up halfway through and left an awful mess behind. Honky at i7. This one features multiple mistakes. It's the movie merchandise that just keeps on giving. A hand with 7 fingers, extra hands where there shouldn't be any, and some spooky appendages too. It's a true work of art. Honky got a handmaiden's fairy tale. It seems that even romantic tales have hidden delights. This princess has much more going for her than just her looks. An extra limb will surely come in handy. Not classically beautiful, but not boring either. Honky at multi-finger delights. We hope this is a Photoshop problem and not extra finger growth. It's certainly one of those photos where once you see it, you can't unsee it. We can't stop looking. Honky at cuddle time. When she was younger, Miley Cyrus was apparently really good at giving hugs. Thanks in part to her extra arms. Honky got us that a doppelganger twin. Is that a doppelganger twin or a glitch in the Matrix? You could be forgiven for thinking this little one was a real twin being carried in a backpack, until you see that Brad Pitt also has an extra leg. Honk at who's missing. We get the feeling that someone was hastily edited out of this photo. The all-consuming red mist eating away at their legs is the first clue. The second is the inexplicable extra hand in the top right. Honky at post-shoot edition. We assume they couldn't find a baby to pop in the carrier when the original photo shoot for this baby carrier cover took place. Maybe they thought it would be easier to Photoshop one in afterwards rather than worry about the hassle of trying to get an infant to stay still. Honky at ghostly apparition. At first glance, it's hard to see what's wrong with this photo, until you notice the lady is apparently missing her arm, or maybe she's a ghost. Honky at see-through players. Imagine if you could make your players invisible during a game. Surely they'd have the upper hand. Honky got a hand in celebration. For some reason, the editor of this photo decided only 2 footballers were needs, and one was removed. The extra hand, as usual, is a telltale sign of the mistake. Honky got a magic jump shot. This basketball player apparently has such a powerful jump it warped reality. A player casually sits watching the action from a nearby seat and is so impressed he's lost his head. Honky at that is out of the picture. A fairly sad shot of a family selfie where dad has been removed from the photo. A hairy hand remains as proof of his existence. Honky at an interesting fit. The fit of this woman's trousers is off. Certainly doesn't look terribly comfortable. Honky at a multi-angle shot. A close look at this photo apparently shows someone laying down in the cornfield below the athlete. We assume they were trying to take photos from multiple angles, but the result is much creepier. Honky at opposites attract. They say couples often look similar, but this is ridiculous. Maybe they couldn't find a lady to feature in the photo, so just asked the male model to pop a wig on. We're not sure what happened, but we love it. Honky at levitating LeBron. Professional basketball player LeBron James is apparently not just incredibly tall and amazing at his chosen sport, but he's also capable of levitation tricks. Or at least appearing in photos without showing off his legs. Honky at family faces. There's certainly nothing wrong with multicultural families. Photoshopping faces in isn't the best way to show them off though. Dad's face is also creepily edited. The lighting is all wrong. Honk at the angles are all wrong. The neck of this guitar appears to disappear through a mess of hair in ways that it couldn't possibly have done. Another miracle of Photoshop. Honk at lazy legs and loungers only support one-legged models. It's fairly impressive to be able to edit a photo and make someone who is clearly relaxed look a wee uncomfortable. Max Division of Photoshopping to the gun show. Do you even lift, bro? This guy clearly does. But only the left arm. Never the right. Never. GQ free the nipple. Chrissy Teigen, the model shot here, tweeted in response, "I have no nipples. I draw them on with Sharpies each morning and sometimes I forget." W Magazine and dwellers we applaud the appearance of a drone in this shot published by W Magazine, but apparently, Gigi Hadid and Kendall Jenner were born without knees. There's also a disembodied hand floating out of the tent and tapping one of them on the shoulder. BuzzFeed, a mother to look up to. When I grow up, I want to be as freakishly tall as you, Mum. We'd imagine this young lad gets a lot of neck strain when looking up to talk to his mummy. Billboard 2 right feet, Fifth Harmony. 2 right feet. Nuff said. This is one of the classic Photoshop errors where you have to look close to see it, but when you do it doesn't disappoint. Photoshop disasters, that's plain wrong. Would you get on a plane with a missing front wheel? We're not sure we would. The landing would certainly be rough. 20th Century Fox freakishly long finger. Spoiler alert. We know X-23 has Wolverine-style claws in Logan, but we didn't realize that her fingers were also super long. This official poster image claims otherwise. At guitarist The Apprentice. These stars of TV show The Apprentice apparently have some terribly long hands. Perhaps it was simply an apprentice designers who was let loose on the editing process. Hayes Blue Swordplay. We're no experts at sword fighting, but we're pretty sure that you don't hold one like this if you want to keep your hands in tip-top fighting shape. Sledgehammer_10 Bearded Minnow of the best, worst, photoshopped adverts for a t-shirt you're ever likely to see. The highlight of which is the man in the photo doesn't even have a beard. Abandoned Potato Gamer. There are so many things wrong with this image, it's hard to know where